Hello, Awesome Soul here, and today I will be doing a bit of a recap on the recent official Free Jam livestream. In this livestream, they were sent a whole bunch of questions through various sources, and they answered them to the best of their ability. Now, I have not done one of these livestream recap videos in quite a while, so for those who are new to this format, throughout the video, I will be giving out the time codes, along with all of the questions. And if you're interested in hearing more about this answer, aka getting a more detailed version of it, you can follow the link in the description to the official livestream, and there you can just go to the time code I stated. Now, without further ado, let's get into this, because I have probably the most amount of notes I have ever taken for any of these kind of videos. And as such, I'm going to be condensing it down somewhat. I'm still going through everything, I'm just giving you the TLDR version of it. Alright, so starting off at 10 minutes and 40 seconds, will we ever get any other firing modes besides round robin? And they're not really considering it, but this was mainly referring to the whole burst plasma firing. 2 minutes later, somebody asked if there will ever be a spectator feature for custom games. And we got ourselves a fairly insightful answer, as they state most people don't actually play custom games. So our time is better spent improving other modes that more people play. They were saying that Battle Arena and League Arena seem to be the most popular ones. With that answer, it also hints at the fact that we probably won't be seeing too many more custom game sliders coming, at least in the near future, as most likely it's not high priority for them. Here's a pretty big one for any content creators out there, or for those who like to create art bots and post various screenshots of them. At the 14-minute and 45-second mark, they state that in the next update, we will be getting a mode to toggle HUD on and off. This means that your minimap, your health bar, your crosshairs, etc., will be gone. All you'll be able to see is the map and your robot, essentially. A minute later, somebody asks whether or not tank tracks will be getting a fix or rework. Free Jam's response to this is they want to keep hearing people's feedback on what they don't actually like about them. A little later, at the 17-minute and 20-second mark, a question comes up on whether or not we will ever see more cube shapes. And it seems like the chances are pretty high for that. It's just a matter of if the art team is free or not. They're also saying that it's a fairly simple feature to implement, as you no longer really have to balance anything when it comes to weight to health, as all cubes are now the same weight. So really all they're doing here is modeling them and adding them to the game. No need for any other further balance. And as someone who likes to pretty up their bots, I am very pleased by the possibility of this. Now, something that's been on the minds of most people, I'm sure, at the 19-minute and 10-second mark, are tilted mortars unintentional or creative designs? And we didn't exactly get an answer to this, as Sergey kind of went off on a bit of a tangent on how the mortar was actually designed. Mind you, this was still fairly interesting, and he stated that it's more like a medieval mortar firing a rock rather than anything else, hence why it's more grenade launcher-like. The reason it also has a relatively low range is because while internal playtesting was going on, they basically had people camping the base and constantly lobbing mortars all the way to midpoint, because usually there's gonna be somebody at midpoint. At least that's how they put it anyways. And yeah, that does make perfect sense, as way back in Robocraft's history when the maps were a lot more open and larger, rails reigned supreme, and basically camped at the base and fired at people from across the map. They can't really do that anymore, so it makes sense as to why the mortar can't do that as well. And as I said, it was a bit of a rant, so a while later, at the 26-minute and 50-second mark, will there ever be custom in-game maps? And yes, there most certainly will be. I've actually done a video showing off a bit of a teaser preview. If you somehow haven't seen that, check out my channel. But anyways, they state here that it is taking longer than they thought it would. And when the art team is free, they will be able to hone in on this a bit more. About 2 minutes later, somebody asks, will there ever be more game modes? And there are actually no plans at the moment, as they've kind of said before. What they've also said before is that they don't want to divide the community more. What they mean by this is increase queue times. As a bit of an example here, if you have 100 players and only 2 game modes, that means the queue, in a perfect system at least, would be 50 for each game. But if you have 100 players and there are 4 game modes, again, in a perfect system where everyone likes the game modes, there will be a queue of 25 people per game mode, meaning there's more of a chance for people to go elsewhere besides the queue that you want, and therefore your queue will take a whole lot longer to fill. 32 minutes in, and they are asked, will you re-implement weight versus movement? Their response is not exactly, but what they are doing is tweaking the carry mass of all parts. And hovers are actually coming up next to get that feature. At the 34-minute mark, will we ever get bigger team sizes besides 5v5? And no, it doesn't really seem like we're going to get that. Just because it's going to increase queue times because it takes longer to fill up the match, and also it doesn't exactly work with the party size. 2 minutes onward from there, and will we ever get a rework to Tesla and Plasma? Very simply, there is no current plans for either of them to be changed. Though they did say that Tesla needed a little bit of a tweak, but we didn't really get any solid information there. 2 minutes further, and are there any plans for other games? It's fairly interesting the answer they gave there, if you'd like to go and check that out for yourself. But the TLDR version is they're always coming up with games. Basically, everyone in the office is always handing off little ideas to Mark. So there is no shortage of ideas over at the FreeJam office, and they've simply said, stay tuned. 39 minutes and 36 seconds in, are there any plans for small weapons or further downscaling of the current ones? They like the large and medium weapon system, but maybe they'll toss in some smaller ones, but no guarantee there. They also feel that there are a lot of weapons already, and as an interesting little aside here, the Mortar might never have actually come out if it wasn't teased so early, and with it being teased, there was a lot of hype for it, so the community kind of expected it to happen. So that's kind of interesting there. I guess that's kind of your cue. Are you glad that the Mortar came out, or would you have preferred it not to? While it's personally not my cup of tea, I do enjoy the fact that it's here. 42 minutes in, and they are asked if they're ever going to improve Brawl or simply replace it. They've been discussing this for quite a while now, and they might actually remove it. Though with removing it, they'd most likely need to replace it with something, and that possibly would be elimination mode. But in order to do that, they would need to improve elimination mode, as they feel it's not quite up to the quality standards of the other game modes. Here's another fairly insightful one at the 44-minute and 30-second mark. Can nanos get something for right mouse button? As longtime Robocrafters will know, nanos used to have a right mouse button functionality that wasn't actually zoom. The answer here is that they want one quote-unquote function per gun. So they would rather work in a new part that would add the feature of a right mouse button instead of actually adding onto the nano with this new right mouse button feature. That doesn't actually confirm a new weapon, all that's really saying is their design philosophy. But around 47 minutes in, will the older maps ever be added to custom games? And it's not really that pressing of a feature, so probably not. Though maybe sometime farther down the line. A minute after that, and we come to a rather big one, and that is, can we get the old wings back? And the answer is no. We are never going to be getting the old wings back in any form. This is due to a number of things, mainly its balance, new player experience, and development time. As essentially what they've done is improve the wings so the old code doesn't really exist, meaning they would have to start over from scratch, and they kind of have much more pressing matters at hand. So yeah, kind of unfortunate there. Though while I do enjoy the current wings, I do understand there still is a need for the whole barrel roll acrobatics of the old wings. What I was kind of hoping for is the glider wings possibility, just simply adding in a different part. Maybe they'll change their mind in the future, but it seemed kind of set. Who knows? Continuing on, at the 52-minute mark, will there be a return of old items as cosmetics? And not really, they don't want to add things that look functional as cosmetics, but more cosmetics are coming. A minute later, while waiting in queue, will we ever be able to do anything, such as building? They'd love to do that, but it's not priority at the moment. And a minute further from there, will there be a deeper interaction with the Triboost system, such as modules that give a temporary speed boost, for example? A rather simple answer, no. Probably not going to be anything like that. And mere seconds from there, what about a flamethrower or acid-based weapon? Maybe, but they would need to find a way to differentiate it from other weapons. Mainly, they were saying the ion distorter, as it is a close-range weapon and presumably a flamethrower would also be a close-range weapon. At the 56-minute mark, will we ever be getting googly eyes? Which has been kind of a community meme ever since Rick the Art Jammer suggested it all those years ago. And yes, but interestingly enough, we are never going to be getting any quote-unquote silly parts for Robocraft. These so-called googly eyes are going to be more like robot eyes that follow the camera, so basically look in a certain direction. 2 minutes on from there, what is the progress on the insect legs rework? And they state that it's not actually a rework, but rather a large amount of bug fixes have been solved on that part, and that it's going to be coming, quote, quite soon. End quote. Whether or not that's the next update, we'll just have to wait and see. 59 minutes in, and will nanos be getting a buff? No, is the rather short and simple answer. At the 1 hour mark, will disconnects happen less often after reconnect is implemented? They state maybe, but only as a side effect. 3 minutes later, will custom games creators be able to select what bot comes in? i.e., if you have an exact bot on the CRF that you want people to download, they must bring that bot. And they state that it's going to be a lot of work for very little payoff, especially when you can just gather a group of friends together and actually agree on all bringing one bot. And if they don't, then just simply kick them out the next time. About 3 minutes later, somebody asks, will we be getting a counter pick / draft pick feature? They are considering it, and they kinda like it, but it's not on the top of their list. Though they do also have some problems with it as well. Though it kind of seemed like the pros outweighed the cons for them. Anyways, will the enemy nanos ever be changed to a different color? And that is at the 1 hour and 8 minute mark. The answer to that would be maybe. So instead of seeing green enemy nanos, you would see red enemy nanos, for example. A minute later, what's the future of rank and MMR? Well, there are no plans exactly, but they might come up with something. Perhaps more rewards for higher ranked players, but that's not set in stone. 1 hour and 11 minutes in, are there ever going to be improvements to the new player experience? And interestingly enough, there are going to be video tutorials added directly into the game. This was actually implemented once before, though it was fairly short-lived, which makes sense because it was implemented back in alpha, I believe, when the game was changing a lot. Mere seconds later, somebody asks, will we be getting anything for Halloween? And the fantastic news here is yes, we will. HalloFest number 4 starts next week, so stay tuned for more information. I'll probably cover that once we get some more news there. 1 hour and 14 minutes in, will we be getting public lobbies? So basically, if you start up a custom game, regular people will be able to find your custom game and join it that way. And simply, it's not really a priority for them. What about the PSK? So a minute later from that, I actually asked, will the PSK be getting a rework or is it going to stay the same? They would like to rework it, but they also seem torn on if they should keep it as is. About 3 minutes from there, we go on to a question asking whether or not we are going to be getting a mega sprinter leg. And don't worry, more parts are coming. However, it doesn't sound like we're going to be getting a mega leg. And for those that like Artbot contests, rejoice, because 2 minutes later, at the 1 hour and 20 minute mark, we learned that there is going to be, presumably, they didn't flat out say it, but they said it's going to be next week, and as you just heard, HalloFest number 4 is also next week. So this most likely means there's going to be a Halloween-themed Artbot contest. coming out. So look forward to that. A couple minutes later, somebody is wondering what exactly the point of Electroplates are now, especially since they don't provide any health buff. Well, they said that they might actually increase their base health a little bit, if they still feel it's necessary. They just have to get more feedback first. And what about a PvE mode at the 1 hour and 24 minute mark? Simple answer there is no, we're not going to be seeing that. They kind of want players to be the main focus of the content. Other players, that is. So facing off against actual people. And coming into the home stretch here, a few seconds later, will we be getting previous versions of Robocraft ever released? The answer there is no, as this would be an insane amount of work for them to do, and really it's just not worth their time, and that's totally understandable. If you want a better insight into that though, simply follow the time code I stated. 2 minutes from there, will we get the test map in custom games? They like the idea of it, so maybe it's going to happen at some point. And a minute later, will they lower the opacity on the mortar/plasma explosion, as it does seem to be fairly blinding? Well, that kind of depends on whether or not the art team is free. And finally, at the 1 hour and 29 minute mark, will the time to kill ever be changed? This, especially now, is fairly tough, as a lot of players are building small bots in order to take advantage of the damage boost system. So if they increased time to kill to help out these smaller bots, then it would just mean the really beefy tanky bots would be incredibly overpowered. They didn't really give a solution here, just an interesting bit of insight. And there we have it. Congratulations on making it all the way to the end. Pat yourself on the back if you did. And let me know what you think of all of the news we've gotten here. I'm curious to get your feedback on it. But with that, guys, I of course have been the Awesome Soul. I thank you all so very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.